itself, we're going to cut out a stitched oval framelit and put our sentiment on the front and the inside. And the reason I wanted this cut a little bit is I wanted this paper to show through that will coordinate the inks and the paper. And then here's your spot that you would write your sentiment. Okay, so I've got everything cut. I will have the directions listed in below the video. I'll have the sizes, but this piece here is measured at 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. So this is 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. And then we have a strip of 1 inch by 4 1/4 of the Magnolia Lane DSP. And then we just have a scrap here for our sentiment that we're going to stamp on and cut out with the oval stitched framelit. And then of course we're going to have another scrap that's going to be just for our flower. I'm going to pull in the Stamparatus, and if you're not familiar with this is a stamp positioning tool. Stampin' Up! Took about 5 years to design this. It comes with 2 of these acrylic plates, one with hinges. One goes here and one will go here. In this case, if you have large stamps or small stamps, however you want to do it, just use your positioning tool. So if you ink up, like this is a large stamp, so we're going to take our ink and we're going to put it on this way. And then you push it down and give it coverage. And then if for some reason you don't get enough ink on your image, you can re-ink this and push it down again and it will stay in the same spot. The nice thing about our Stamparatus is that if you're doing some stamping where you want to do things in a row, you have the ability to take off your plate, lift it up and move it down, and it will automatically stamp in a row with the same amount of space in between. And then the other thing that this is perfect for is if you're going to do a two-step stamping, which means you stamp like an outline of the image and then you come back and stamp the coloring of the image. So you would stamp the image and then you would have another plate here that you then could pull down and stamp the color. So you could do a lot of mass producing of cards, which is perfect for this time of year since it's the holidays. So this is what I'm going to be using to stamp this big flower. And for time purposes, I went ahead and stamped one in advance and colored it. So that's our stamp that we've done. And then the other nice thing about this set is with the dies themselves, we have the 16 dies that cut out. So here is our die that we will place on here and run that through the die cutting machine. And that's gonna hug it really tight and give us a nice, crisp, clean cut with a little bit of white around the edges. So we're gonna go ahead and pretend we've done all that. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we wanna go ahead and start to put our card together. So I'm going to go ahead and take my base and I've got it folded. Now I want to stamp my image right here from the stamp set that has this beautiful, beautiful scroll. Now you could do this if you happen to cut it upside down. You really could do it like that. No one's going to know the difference. You see what I mean? So this is how we're going to stamp it. It's going to be stamped just like that. And we're going to do it in petal pink as well. And I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and use the Stamparatus since we have it right here. So I think we're going to set that right about there. And then I should be able to, all right, let me put that right there. And then I'm going to lay my cardstock. This is where I want it to stamp, okay? And this is the best way to get your stuff lined up. So you're just going to lay your stamp right where you want to stamp it and try to get it even on both sides. We're going to push down and then we're going to pull it up. We're going to go ahead and add our ink. Go ahead and lightly tap this. Now anytime that you're using ink and pushing down, you want to put one of your cases, of your stamp cases, underneath. That gives it pressure. You don't want to put any pressure on these hinges here, so we don't want it to affect the operation. So all I'm going to do is lightly tap this on here. Now of course you're not going to be able to see this ink because it's so light, right? But we know if you look at it you can see that it's wet. So I'm just going to stamp that, get enough ink on it, and then we're going to fold this over and we're going to push down, pull up, and there's our image. Isn't that perfect? And then you would just clean this with your regular stamp stamping pad, or you can use the chamois, the simple chamois, which is perfect, especially when you're using the larger stamps. Now these I haven't wet, but and they're cut. I rinse them out periodically, but they will stain. But you keep these wet and then just wipe the ink off your stamp and you're good to go. All right, so let me go ahead and move this out of the way. All right, and through the wonderful world of videotaping, I went ahead and cut out our magnolia flower using our die cutting machine, and I also cut out our oval that we're going to stamp our sentiment on, and that's using the stitched shape dies, and you've got four squares, 4 circles, and 4 ovals, and we're using the next to the smallest oval for this sentiment. Now, only reason I did it now is to save time for the video, but I always tell my attendees to always stamp first and then cut, because if you make a mistake, you can flip your paper over, and it's just easier that way. But for, you know, time purposes, obviously, I don't want you sitting here watching me have to run it through the die cutting machine and all that. But we should be able to make it work, so it shouldn't be a problem. So I'm going to ink up my ink using the Memento Black ink pad. So we're going to stamp it right there. All right, perfect. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is go ahead and put our card together. I'm going to go ahead and attach my paper to the inside. So let me get my cardstock here, and I'm going to put this right about here. Let me get this out of the way. Hopefully that I'm in the camera. I'm going to go ahead and place this here, and then I'm going to eyeball how I want my paper, where I want it to sit, so that when I close my card, I'll be able to see, make sure it's showing what I want it to show. And if you cut your stuff and it's hanging over just a little bit, it's not a big deal. We'll just trim it up with our paper snips, okay? So I think I'm going to put that right about there. I'm leaving a little bit of a gap there, which I think is fine. And then I think that's going to be perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and place my white down, and I'm going to put my snail on the back of this. And you can use any type of adhesive that you're comfortable with. I like using the snail. Some people like the liquid glue, the Tombow glue. Now I can tell that this is hanging over a little bit, so we'll just trim that off when we get done. If you haven't seen this paper, this is the 2019-20 catalog, and this is the Magnolia Lane. It is just such a gorgeous, it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous paper. And you could put a piece of ribbon around this if you wanted to hide that seam, but I think that looks fine. All right, so we've got that done. So we're going to go ahead and take our sentiments, and we are going to pop them up on dimensionals. And since our flower is so big, we're just going to add dimensionals, because you never have enough, right? And this is not going to cause any extra weight. You shouldn't really have to put much. I don't think you'll need to add any postage on this. Some people say they do. I haven't. It's been very rare that I've had to add postage. All right, so again, it's a quick and easy card, so I'm just going to push my fingernails down into my dimensional tops to pull the little papers off. And we'll just pull these off pretty quickly. See how they just rip right off? You don't even have to think about it. And again, this is a really nice card. Just makes a really nice, beautiful card. And all right, so we're going to place that right there. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my sentiment. And we're going to pop that, and I'm going to cover the branch. And then we'll add some rhinestones just to give a little bling to it. You can use your pick-me-up tool or paper. I think it's called a pick-me-up. I use my scissors. It's just out of habit because I've been doing it for so long. I'm going to put a little bit larger, little blingy there. Rhinestones are so nice to use. They're so inexpensive too. I mean, I think these things run $5 for, I don't know, 100 or so. I'm not sure how many's on here. Let's see. 150 pieces, and I think they're $5 or $5.50. So I think that's pretty inexpensive. So there's our card. Now I'm going to leave the inside blank because I want to write out a personal message when I send this out to someone. So there's our Magnolia, Good Morning Magnolia stamp set and coordinating dies. I hope that you've enjoyed this card. It's a very simple card to use. Again, you've got the 2 stamps. You've got quite a few good sentiments in here that you can use. There is also a die for that as well. And then, of course, we've got hello, thanks, the large magnolia and a leaf, and then you can kind of add that there and build your own. All right, thanks again. Oh, one last thing I want to show you. Since we have this paper and we have our envelope, we're going to decorate our envelope. Now, I took a piece of 2 inches, 2¼ by 5 3/4. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to use this and decorate my flap. So the easiest thing to do is I just put adhesive on my flap because I know that's where I need to have my adhesive. So I'm just going to push that all the way around the edges. And then you're going to lay this on here. Just going to butt it up to the fold of the envelope fold. So you're going to butt it up to that. Leave a little bit, you know, space so it can fold down. Press it down. And then we're going to go in, which we also need to do because we're going to trim this off on this card. Okay, so remember I said this white was hanging over? Just take your paper snips and just go right against your petal pink cardstock and cut. And there you go. No one's going to know the difference. All right, so with our envelope, we're just going to cut around the flap of the envelope. Make our envelope look very pretty because, you know, if you're going to send a nice card, then you might as well send an envelope that looks just as pretty, right? So you can stamp that smaller flower. I'm going to turn this so I can get to it. You can stamp that smaller flower in the bottom left-hand corner if you like on the front of your envelope, and your recipient, when they receive this, they are going to be so surprised. Isn't that beautiful? Now, if we had used the coordinating here, that would have, I still think it looks fine. You're going to put this in the envelope and they're going to look at that and go, oh my goodness. So there you go, a quick card that you can make using the Good Morning Magnolia along with the Magnolia dies. And also, don't forget to always decorate your envelope. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching. If you need anything, please reach out to me at dawn@shallwestamp.com. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube video, please do so in the bottom of the screen. And also like my Facebook page. And if you want to stay up to date on events that I am doing through my Shall We Stamp business, then you can sign up for my newsletter and go to shallwestamp.com. All right, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.